And we are live. What's going on, coaches? How are y'all doing today? Hopefully you had a good weekend. For some of y'all that are already playing ball, I hope you had fun and it was nice to be out there. We just started 7-on-7 for the first time in a year, and I'm going to be honest, it was the best thing I've ever done. I'm stupid. I forgot my hat, though, so I got really burnt, my bald head. But I'm here with the great Josh Herring. Coach, like I said before we got on, I've been a huge fan of yours for a very long time. I appreciate you coming on and talking ball with us. And for those coaches that don't know, I'm sure they know about the play that you've created, the sloppy route that everyone and their brother stole. But could you tell us a little bit about yourself and who are you and why you're so great?
Well, I don't know about great, and I stole sloppy from a bunch of really good coaches too. So I think it's pretty.
You brought
impossible.
It to the mainstream, though, man.
Okay, well they I'm at Jones County High School, which is in Middle Georgia. Georgia's very particular about whether you're in North or Middle or South Georgia or whatever. So it's Middle Georgia, but we're a 5A school with 1,500 kids. I was at 7A school named Lasser High School in Metro Atlanta for 9 years before I came here into Jones, and it was in Alabama before that. So been a couple different states that are football crazy, and been an offense coordinator and quarterback coach mostly since about 2007. Okay. So this would be my 17th. This is my 17th year coaching. So glad to be on here, man.
Now I have to ask, what is more football crazy, Alabama or Georgia?
I would say, there's nothing crazier than Alabama Auburn football. There's nothing.
I agree.
You can't, and until you've experienced it, it's really you just can't even describe it. High school wise, Georgia is just so much bigger than Alabama. There are just so many more schools. Schools tend to be so much bigger. I think it varies, especially Metro Birmingham, where I coached. I mean, Alabama high school football is incredible. It's awesome. But just the sheer population and amount of talent that's in Georgia, I mean, you're really second only to I think you're Texas is really. I mean, I think you are. I think when you combine coaching and how much people love it, and how much money people put into the programs, and how much focus there is on it, I would really think that's the only thing that's comparison. I mean, we're all playing catch up to Texas. That's just the way
we are. Yeah, Texas, I love you, but I hate you. Coaches, if you have any questions for Coach, put them in the chat, and I'll ask them. We already have some coaches here. Johnny, what's up? Danny, B, Coach Chase, how are y'all doing? Robert, what's going on, man? Hope y'all are doing good. My first question for you, you said you've been in this game for 17 years. What's something you know now that you wish you knew when you first started out?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, there's 1,000 things. I think that any guy that aspires to be an offensive coordinator, especially when you're young, you're so schematically focused, like on X's and O's and tactics. And I'm still the worst in the world about that. I mean, I think a lot of us that are in this, that's just it's the intellectual part of it. We just love the scheming and all that. But it is so much about relationships with your staff and with your kids. If I could go back, I became a coordinator when I was 24 years old, and I had all these ideas, and I was going to do all this stuff. And I had no idea what I was doing. I think the thing that you learn the most about football is that there's never been a season where I haven't gone, man, I learned so much this year. I wish I had known this the year before. It is every single year. Doesn't matter. Every off season, I'm like, man, I'm an idiot. So I think being a constant learner, I think, guys that I may generate some controversy here, but when during the Zoomapalooza and that with Corona and everything, like guys complaining about guys wanting to learn and get better. I mean, nobody thinks they're going to do everything they learn from 150 Zooms, but how are you going to get mad at guys for trying to better themselves? So, I mean, if you stop learning, you're just dying as a coach. So I think that's important. Just be a lifelong learner. But relationships, it's about relationships with kids and the coaches on your staff and dealing with all those things. Sometimes that's nobody wants to hear that. It's not any fun to talk about at clinics. But it's the truth. It is. It's about relationships with people.
All right. So what's one way you build a relationship with your kid? Like, okay, for me, I'm at a new school. You've been to different schools. This is my first year with these kids. What's something you could give me to say, okay, this is an easy way to start building that relationship? Do you have like a little trick, a tip or something?
Well, if you have, like for me with the quarterbacks are always going to be different because there's fewer of them, than dealing with your entire offense or whatever. But quarterback school for me has always been a deal where, I mean, we're going to learn all about football and stuff, but you're just spending time with those kids once or twice a week and talk to them about stuff that's not football related. I mean, kids today are so social media oriented. It's hard for them. It's just difficult to have conversations with adults. I mean, they freeze up sometimes. So just talking to them and letting them see that you're interested in them, and that you've faced some of the same issues that they had before. I think that's important. Coaching for this long, it has changed so much in how you communicate with kids. Like my kids do not want to talk on the phone to me. Like they just don't. But if you text with them, you send them stuff. We've got young coaches now. It's passed me by. I can't snap or whatever, but we've got young coaches that are snapping with the kids now. I mean, you just have to constantly evolve as they evolve. They're always 5 years ahead of us technology-wise, as technologically savvy as we may be. So you just got to find ways to have conversations about things outside football, let them know you care about them, have interest in your life. But I think number one is to just be yourself. I think, I'm not I can talk about 90s hip hop, but I don't know anything about Migos. Like I don't, so I'm not going to be fake and be like, you guys hear the new young boy, I'm not going to do that. So be yourself and be who you are. And I think they respect that. I mean, I'm an old guy now with kids and I drink coffee. I mean, so be who you are and they get that. Don't try and, that's the way it's going to be. But if you are young and you're still, we have young coaches that they're not much older than the kids. And so they're going to have different things to talk about and different relationships in that way. But just be who you are. Don't try and be fake or be somebody else, because if there's one thing kids spot, it's somebody that's trying to be fake. I mean,
they are great at that. They are great. They can smell BS better than anyone I've ever been around. We have some questions, and I want to get to that. Johnny, he wants to know what the sloppy route is, and that's we'll get to that. Well, okay. On the flip side of that, so building relationships with kids, be yourself, and just and talk to them. What about building cohesiveness with a new staff if you're brand new? How do you go about doing that?
All right. Now, everybody's situation is different, and the great thing about being in 2 states and at multiple different schools. So I started out coaching at a very small rural school. I coached for my very first coaching job was with a guy named Chip Lindsay, who's the head coach at Troy now, and his first high school coaching job. So you got small school, rural. I was at Metro, a very high socioeconomic status school with a lot of rich kids, frankly. Big, metropolitan Atlanta area. Jones County is kind of a little bit of a mix. It's rural. It's right outside Macon. It's got that demographically is a lot more diverse in some ways than the last school I was at. So the culture of every single school is going to be different. And the culture of the staff in that same way can be different depending on who the coach has hired and where these people are from. I think the easy way, the easy thing is that we spend so much time together as coaches. There's just no way you're not going to get to know each other. I mean, if you're working hard and the amount of time that we spend, I mean, unfortunately, it is what it is. We see each other way more than we see our families during the season. So you're spending a lot of time together. Now, the hard thing is if you are coming from different backgrounds, you have different ideas about, what should be going on, getting buy-in from everybody. And and the same thing with the kids. You can't be fake and trying to get everybody to have each other's back. We've done every kind of staff building thing over the years you can think of. There's all kinds of stuff you can try. I just think, you kind of have to go with the vision of your head coach and what he wants. But here's a little secret, though, a little tip. But if you really want to have staff cohesiveness, you need to have cohesiveness with the coaches' wives. All right. That's a big deal. If you have, like coaches' wives issues, that can infect the entire staff. That can be a big deal. So doing stuff to support them and help them, I mean, it's tough to be a coach's wife. So if you can do things to build them up and have them be tight, then that's just going to bleed over into the staff too, because if mama's not happy, nobody's happy. So I think that's a big thing. As a head coach, do things that can involve them and help them spend time together and get together. And that's just going to make your entire family spend time. Us, like right now, we have a ridiculous amount of young kids on our staff. So we all have that in common. We're a lot kind of in that stage of life. So it's really easy for us to be tight, and we work a lot of hours. So that just helps with that as well. But you got to have buy-in, and you've also got to, if you have somebody that's not buying in, you're gonna have to confront that. Nobody likes that accountability factor, but you got to confront that and just sort of say, you may not agree with everything that's going on, but you got to buy in, or you're gonna have to leave.
A 10-minute uncomfortable talk about buy-in can save you a year of headache.
That's exactly right.
I learned that from someone a lot smarter than me. Again, I steal from the best. Let's get to the sloppy route, sir.
All right.
What is the sloppy route? First off, why do you call it a sloppy? And then what is it?
Okay. So sloppy for us, a lot of people in the old West Coast offense, going all the way back to Bill Walsh, called it slop. Okay. So slop is slot option. We got the term sloppy from Neil Brown, who's now at West Virginia, when he was a coordinator. He had just gone to Troy, but he had been at Delaware, I think, when Joe Flacco was there. And they had a guy that was a West Coast background, and so they called it sloppy. So we called it sloppy. Now all of our option routes kind of are that same. We have like sloppy and goofy and iggy, like that. That just kind of sounds so the coaches and the kids can kind of be like, okay, that's an option route type deal. So the whole idea behind sloppy, which now you got people call it looky in some systems, you got people call it loosey, people call it choice. There's all kinds of stuff, and it's like blown up to where there's multiple options for all kinds of NFL teams and college teams are doing cool things with it. But for us, it was a slant, or basically you pivoted back out. And we've changed the way we teach it a little bit over the years. There are other option routes we're running more right now because in kind of our league and where we're at, we see so much odd front and so much drop eight that a lot of times with the sloppy route, you're going to have a guy bracketed inside and outside, and it just makes it tougher. And so he ends up hitching. To try and just make it really simple and not ramble, basically we started out, we would read the first guy head up to inside. Okay. And if you can cross the guy's face, you cross his face on a slant. If you can't, then you pivot back outside. And if you watched any LSU this year, which is just, one of the maybe the greatest offense of all time in college football, they ran a ton. They ran a ton of it. And there's some slightly different technique things that we've kind of been exposed to, maybe with some of the stuff they were doing. But in its essence, you're either going to slant or you're going to break out. You can pivot back out or just work a straight out. But it is a great way to get the ball out fast and have a built-in explosive opportunity in the quick game. It's a whole probably hour and a half lecture, but it's a good play. If you're seeing any 4-2, like cover 4 defense, you should run sloppy if you like to throw the ball.
What other routes are you using to complement that? Is everyone just going deep and you're just isolating one guy? Is it a concept on the front side and you're running sloppy on the back side?
Right. Great question. Like for us, in the way our system is built, we can get to it in multiple ways. All right. The original way that we did it was as a mic push. So what a mic push, or Dan Gonzalez, who's a buddy of mine, calls it a ram read away from mic. Essentially, you're going to have some sort of quick game concept on the other side. Traditionally, it's always been stick. Now people are doing different stuff with it. But let's say you have a stick concept away from sloppy. So if you're seeing like a lot of 4-3 or 4-1 box, or 4-2, if it's trips and you're running back sloppy, if the mic pushes to number 3, which he should, in most defensive systems, then you're going to have a clean isolation on the wheel linebacker. And so that's the guy you're working the sloppy off of. So you have this, hopefully dynamic slot or running back. You're giving him a two-way go against a linebacker who's not as good in coverage. Now, people are doing some different things with it. If you watch a lot of what we do now, if you watch LSU, they were kind of doing the same thing. We're running basically snag dig on the backside. So instead of a corner, it's the snag concept, but you're running a dig instead of a corner. Well, we're not mic pushing it now because we're seeing so much odds. So like we're looking at the sloppy, and we have the ability, if he's doubled or bracketed, to scan right back to that snag dig or snag basic, whatever you want to call it. So we've got the dig right in front of the quarterback's eyes, and then you work back out to the hole or a swing or a flat or something like that. So we can see out in front of the entire route and then scan back. So we could mic push it or we could scan it. You could also do it as a 1 high, 2 high. If you have in your system enough versatility to kind of change week to week how a quarterback reads something, I think it keeps you ahead of a lot of what people are doing. For us, Georgia high school, big school defenses are incredible. They really are. I remember a day when you could throw a jailbreak screen on 3rd and long and it was like witchcraft. Like you were just going to score and they had no idea what to do. Now they are so sophisticated. We took a drubbing last night from Adam Carter, who's a head coach at Grayson. It's a 3-3 guru guy. And he's got a podcast. It's got a lot of good stuff. You may see him on Twitter. But, I mean, they run every sim pressure, coverage, front look. I mean, so you're seeing different stuff every single play. You better give your quarterback some different answers than in the past where, you know, when we were just – there's still good stuff, but we were air raid. I mean, just basic old school, how mummy air raid. And there's still a whole lot of validity to that. But I also think you got to make some changes – now with modern defenses as well as they pattern match and stuff like that to have some other options.
And that leads into, you said it, and you also have a course on Coachtube, Smash Option. What is that?
Okay, we started out, all right, because we run a lot of option routes. I just think if you can teach them, it just gives kids a lot of educated freedom, and it allows you as a play caller to just, I mean, have blind calls. I think it's harder and harder to just say, okay, this week it's going to be cover 3 beaters or that it's going to be cover 2 beaters. That just doesn't exist. We see so much split field coverages, and it's the encyclopedia of American coverage every week. It seems like it's like, what are they doing? So if you give option routes, now we've got a chance to win, and I can just call stuff on 1st down, you know, or 3rd down and not be sure what they're going to do, but the kids can make us right. So we started out, we were trying to do more of the NFL style choice route. What you see a ton in the NFL, you'll have a corner route, and then you've got somebody that has kind of a delayed option with a 3-way break. The 3-way break for us, last year was our first year at Jones County, and we were installing a totally new system. A lot of our staff got there late, and so we were having trouble just getting it taught, and it wasn't clean. And so we just decided, all right, if we want the inside like slant break, we'll tag that. But our base way we're going to do it, and we call it Goofy because it's in that option route family, is we're going to have a 2-way option. And so what we're always going to have, whether we can run it with the outside receiver or the inside receiver, which makes it really versatile, but we're going to stack release behind whoever it is running the corner. And we do several different things where we stack, where it kind of disguises it, and it's not always the same. But even if it wasn't, it's an option route, and so you're making them react. And what we do is we tell the option guy he is reading any defender outside him. Okay, if that defender, so let's say it's 2x2, and number 2 is running the option route. All right, number 1 would reduce split and run a corner route. And you can coach it up how you coach corners. For us, it's a 10-yard. It's a rhythm corner route. Number 2 is going to stack release behind number 1 as they release. So you're creating the stack that they're looking at. What I'm going to do as an option route runner is I'm looking outside, and we teach them it is the acronym LOL. All right, I'm going to break out every single time unless I have a defender that's low outside and looking at me. Okay, and it has to be all 3, and that defines it for him. And there's going to be some gray areas. But he can be low and outside and then take off running vertical. There's a lot of stuff that can happen. But if he's low and he's outside and he is looking at me, then it's cloud. And so what we do then is we just hitch up. Okay, so we're either going to break out or we're going to hitch up. And what happens is you get a lot of easy completions on the hitch, but also if he's playing a cloud technique, he's got to react now to the hitch route. And so you open up a lot of space for the corner route. And so it's been very versatile, and we stack, release with number 2 and with number 1 coming underneath number 2 on a corner. And it's just allows you to do a lot of different things. And the same rule, it doesn't have to be a corner. Let's say, because you're bunched and you get all these bunch checks, okay? Like there's a guy over number 2, and all of a sudden he spot drops to the flat really fast because it's like a bunch box check or any of these defensive things they do. Well, then that guy can become LOL. So there's, all that matters is the technique of outside me. Is there a guy who's LOL? And the kids can remember that easily. So if there is, then I'll hitch. If not, I'm going to break out. So what it did for us, not only did it make it Smash more versatile, and that's really our way of running Smash, it also made where Smash could basically be almost a quick game concept for us, where we're getting a lot of 5-yard outs and hitches that we wouldn't normally be able to run against cloud. If you were running fade out or something and they're playing 2-read or palms or whatever they call it, whatever defensive guy it is, it's got different terms, but they're taking away easy throws like a 5-yard out. Well, now we're going to read that and we'll hitch and we'll get the completion. So we really like it. I hope that comes across and talking online, but that's become a core base thing we do. And I think if you watch the Patriots, Bobby Peters just came out with a new book. He does these NFL studies, but he just came out with a new book on the Patriots, and he actually talks about that concept in there. The Patriots, they do that a ton. They're if they want to break inside on a slant, I think from our film watching, most of the time they kind of know that that's coming. But they do a ton of he's either going to hitch or he's going to break outside.
What made you go to being more option route oriented? Was that just a one day you woke up and you're like, piss on it, I'm going option routes, or was it a gradual thing, like the sloppy led to another one, led to another one?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. It started out really we had a dude that we wanted to get the ball, and this is back in we had messed around with sloppy all the way back in 2008. But about 2011, we had a slot that was a really special player, and we were trying to force the ball to him. And he just had a knack for it. And then we had a couple other guys that it was the same thing. We were outmatched a lot of the times at that school physically, but we had really smart kids. And so we just started to decide, okay, let's let them make us right. They're smart enough to do it. They can decide stuff better than we can as play callers sometimes. So let's just run option routes. And they got a feel for it, and it just became a part of what we did. And then as we move, we have sometimes, there's several games that we'll play, here where we have an athletic advantage, but we're still doing the same thing. And we've simplified it to the point where now if you have a really good athlete and you run it, the original thing was, okay, we're going to give guys a chance that aren't as athletic. Well, if you have a superior athlete and he can still do it, then you got some big time stuff happening. So it just developed over time. It was a combination of trying to get guys the ball and force it to them, but also then it became, we have to do this against modern defensive coverages because it's just so hard. How much better secondaries are coached now than they were 10 years ago, to me, is the biggest difference in football. It's unbelievable, at least in what I've seen in Georgia, how secondaries were coached in 2010 when I came to Georgia versus 2020. It's just not close. And all the secret, Saban stuff and all these other guys that are defensive, gurus, now that's all out there thanks to Twitter and, guys like you that are doing such a great job of disseminating information. So that stuff's just out there now. And so guys, they're getting better and better and better. So as offensive coaches, sometimes you just want to have some blind calls. Let's just call something that's good against everything. And I really believe I've just become Lincoln Riley said that, who's the most famous guy that said it. But a bunch of coaches I've talked to have said, you've got to have stuff that's good against 70, 80% of everything you see against defenses today. You're just not going to be able to have a menu of beaters going into any week-to-week season.
What I hear is next year you're going straight up run and shoot. That's what I'm hearing right now.
It's so funny you say that because some of my coaching buddies, we have a heavy run and shoot influence, but they always say, you're really just going to go run and shoot at some point and not say it is. But if you take the quick game, these short option routes, that's kind of our deal. And then the drop back game, it's seam reads. That's what we do. So there's some truth to that.
Well, you've opened it. I want to know the option routes. I've always dabbled, but I always pull back because I don't know the correct way to teach it in practice. Like, how do you get reps over and over again?
Right.
I don't want you to tell us your secret sauce or anything like that, but give us a little hint. What's like one drill? If this is the way you want to go, what's something you should be doing every single day to drill in your kids? These are the options.
Right. At least once a week, and then in the summer more than once a week, but at least once a week we do what we call read drill, and now we do goofy drill. So the number one thing is we have coaches be the reads, so it's a proper look. But when we teach seam reads, read drill for us, we're going to have two lines of inside receivers and outside receivers. It doesn't matter, X, Z, Y, H, which is how we designate our receivers, or whatever you call those receivers. It doesn't matter. We've got inside receivers and outside receivers. There's a lot of stuff that we do where it's inside receiver, outside receiver based, not seam reads. All right. We're going to teach all slots how to seam read. We're going to teach all outside receivers how to seam read because we switch release so much. And then we're going to teach vice versa. So the outside go come back read. okay, that, run and shoot type streak stuff. So we're going to put them in 2 lines, literally, and then we're going to have a corner, a coach playing a corner, a coach playing a safety, and at least 2 coaches playing linebacker, because we're going to work settling in windows after we break off. So we're using, we now everybody's using this. I don't really know who started it. I was exposed to it. All the R4 guys say this, but if it's capped, snap.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's what we say. And so for us, when we're running an inside seam read, if it's capped, then I'm going to snap and wrap. That's what we say. So we do not run full speed digs anymore. We have in the past. We are trying to wrap, basically curl into grass around either the first or second linebacker in the box. We get a ludicrous amount of reps doing this. So we will go, let's say we're on the 10-yard line coming out and we've got the drill set up. All right. Every single kid will go down the left hash. Let's say we're left hash. We're going to rep it. Bam, bam, bam. And 2 quarterbacks throwing. We're throwing both balls. They're getting practice reading whether they're capped or uncapped. They're getting practice running comebacks or goes up the numbers or seam throws or curls. They do that. And then we do the same thing coming back. So they'll be on let's say it's the 10 left hash, boom, rep. Let's say there's 5 or 6 different pairs of guys. Then they're going down about 20 yards. The quarterbacks run down. We've got garbage cans on both ends full of footballs. We do the same thing going back. So in a 5-minute period, we can knock out sometimes as many as two plays, both the switch seam read and the normal everyday 4 vertical seam read with the outside guy on the go comeback. We can knock that out both directions. So every kid's getting it from both directions, and they're getting good reads because the quarterbacks are showing it to them. And now we do the same thing with Goofy. You don't need as many coaches with Goofy. You really just have somebody to be the corner most of the time. We do those drills. Everybody's catching the ball. Everybody's throwing. So it's kind of like a routes on air, but we're making it 2 lines, and we're focusing on the read. So every coach is coaching every detail of it, and we're still going super fast. But we want everybody to notice. And so the kids, we're even, asking them to watch, and they're coaching younger guys too. So everybody, that's our core stuff. So that's no different than a veer team working triple option veer, handwork, footwork and handoffs. That's what we do. So if I had to do any drill, that we 100% believe in that drill. Now we throw routes on air and stuff like everybody else, but on that, we want to hone in on the wide receiver reads.
I love that because it does. It sounds like routes on air or pat and go with a specific emphasis. I also love how you use the word ludicrous, and you're from around Atlanta. I like that. Plugging the local rappers, and you say you're not hip and everything like that. I know at one point in one of your books, I think it was the Creating Explosive Plays books that you did, that you 2-person or bone, you had a lot of bone, 2 tight ends because you wanted to manipulate the shell to get yourself the favorable looks. Are you still doing that, or have you gone back to the 4 wide option type stuff? What's your base?
We still base out of 10 personnel, 4 wide. What we want to have in an ideal world is we want to have a hybrid tight end guy that we can easily which you see Oklahoma is so good at. We want to be able to get in tight end and fullback sets and not change personnel. This year, we're able to do that. Last year, we had to be really personnel package based, but we're more than most teams that are kind of an air raid-ish background. We do more tight end, 2 tight. It could be 12 or 21 personnel looks. It's really the same guys. Tight end wise, but we like tight ends. I think we see so much odd that because of how much we throw the ball, that it's really good for us to be able to just jump into a tight end or a sniffer set and run the ball. And against all the odd, it standardizes the front a lot. I mean, you're going to get a defined look instead of all the crazy junk that you see. So we probably use tight ends more than most teams that have kind of, I guess, our lineage or background as far as throwing the ball. We like a lot of pro style stuff. And so what you're talking about, bone, we literally still do that. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think it helps in run game, and it helps isolate guys outside, which we're always trying to find ways to do.
You talk about run game. What is your favorite run? Like, are you more gap schemed, or zone, or are you 50-50?
we are a huge mid-zone team. That is our deal, run game wise. And last year, oh my goodness, how many times did we call it? Trying to think, I've got it. I should be able like 160 times. I mean, like that's our run game. And mid zone for us, all this stuff now, everybody means different things. Like mid zone for us is basically outside zone for the O line for the most part. It's wide zone, but we're taking a little bit tighter track with the running back. In the past, when we ran wide zone, it was more of a stretch, Rich Rodriguez deal where the back is really going flat across. We felt like we took losses sometimes on that. We had success for years and years and years with that. But now we have more of a track where the back is aiming for the inside leg of the tackle. And that's kind of our track. That's mid zone. Our tight zone or inside zone, we do run that. And that's a midline zone where we're at chasing the center's crack, basically. So it's a super tight zone. And then we run a lot of draw. I don't know. I think we call draw more than anybody. I think it's the most underrated play in football. But we run draw, and then we're always going to have some type of gap. But we do not major in gap schemes. It's kind of a change up. Now, here's another little OC tip that I've learned over the years. Whatever your offensive line coaches believe in as an offense coordinator and can teach and are good at, whether it comes to pass pro technique or run game, you should be good enough to kind of build around that. I mean, have your vision for your system, the way it's going to work. But like I've had offensive line coaches that were gap dudes. And if it's just that way and that's what they believe in they're good at, well, then we're going to figure out how to deal with the gap schemes. That we can do a lot of the same stuff we're doing. It doesn't impact RPOs that much different than zone stuff if they're zone type people. So like I've had wide zone coaches that were inside zone and didn't like it. I mean, your O-line coach, if you're not the O-line coach as a coordinator, that's your best friend. That makes the deal go. And you better get buy-in and trust from them. So do some stuff to make those guys happy and let them kind of use their skills and talents just like you would a player. Now, some people are like, this is my system. This is what I'm going to do. This is the way it works. I just think that so much of the modern run game now is the same for everybody. People are good at, teaching multiple things. Use kill calls if you want to. Like if you're worried about having too much scheme or taking too much, well, don't run certain plays into any look. Just practice the one look you want, and if you don't get that look, then use a kill call and run whatever else you like. So us for mid-zone, like here's why we like it and why I have for over a decade. That's what I want to run because it's good against everything, literally. We have a shot. It may not be the best thing against a certain front, but we see so much junk defense. Let's have a run game where I can feel comfortable saying if we're going to run the ball right here, we at least can get the front blocked up and have a chance. And so that's why I personally believe so much in mid-zone. I think it's way more forgiving than inside zone. You don't have to bang as much inside and have dominant guards or a center. You can just kind of get bodies covered up and let the back make you right. And I mean, we believe in it wholeheartedly. So, and we're a passing team, but I mean, we ran for 1,800 yards last year. Most of it was on mid-zone stuff. And then we do under center kind of speed sweepish, like LA Rams kind of thing. We have a package with that we've had some success with, and it's great for mid-zone as well. So that's a lot of that is how we base in the run game.
What are you doing on the backside of that? Are you reading the end? Are you basing it and making it a second level RPO, or do you have tags that you can do either? What's your thought process?
Yeah, all of the above. I mean, if we so like for instance, okay, I'll just give you the real like maze is what we call mid zone, MZ mid zone. Right, that's the deal. So what we call it. Well, if we say mock, that's maze lock. So now we're locking the backside tackle on the backside D end, and now we're either the quarterback's going to read the backer and be able to pull and replace, or it's an RPO attached to it. And so kind of the way that we signal now, we basically have a human wristband. So we've got individual guys signaling to individual players, just like the old school Tony Franklin wristband where everybody only knew their job. We're pretty much signaling that way. When I had less coaches, we're really blessed here, football resource-wise. That's pretty awesome. But I've been places didn't have a lot of coaches, and we did it in pods then. So we had a guy, like we might have a guy signaling to the quarterback, a guy signaling to the O-line, and then guys that would signal just a pod to the group of receivers on that side. And now we're pretty much, we've just about got somebody to signal to all the skill positions for the most part. But that's so like if I'm running an RPO, they don't even know what the run play is necessarily. Or we'll have a blocking call that kind of can tell them, okay, here's technique wise, what you need to do. And so that's how we're able to kind of do some pretty sophisticated stuff. And the kids can still pick up on it because really they're not learning that much and they're getting individual signals. And I know not everybody can do that, but we can, and we have a lot of meeting time with our kids. So we're able to do some of that
Go
stuff.
ahead and brag, man. Brag.
Sorry, man. I'm sorry.
11 coaches for 11 players, each one getting their own play. I like it. I like it. And
it's not 11. It's not 11. We have one guy signaling to the 5 offensive line, but it's still, and you can have players too. You know, we have backup quarterbacks that do that. But I've coached on staffs that had, you know, really 3 offensive coaches too. So, you know, adapt to what your circumstances are.
Adapt or die. Freaking Dub Maddox.
Right.
Are you a wristband guy or a signaling guy? I know you signal, but do you air more to like concepts and signals or wristbands, like you said, Tony Franklin, or do you have a mixture depending on what you want to do?
I started coaching as a wristband guy, but we haven't used a wristband since 2007. So I'm totally cool with doing that. There have been games where maybe if we did some muddle huddle stuff, we may have had one and called some wordy stuff, but for the most part, we're just going to signal concepts. And I just think it's flexible. You can use a wristband and be great. For the amount of time that we spent on the wristband, like if especially because we had the dummy band, right? And if one thing is wrong, so it's like Thursday, and all of a sudden it's like, no, and you've got to go fix the cell and the Excel sheet, and you got to find it, you got to recut and relaminate, and you use so much ink. It just became a pain in the butt, and we were like, it's just refreshing. Let's go away from the bands.
Nothing is worse is when you figure out you have a mistake during the game. Oh. You're like, shit, I can't call that play anymore because that one, you're calling it for that one reason, and that one reason is they got something different, and you're like, oh man, so you just got to sit there and eat it. I hate those.
My nightmare was forgetting the wristbands, right? Like I'd wake up in the middle of the night and be like, we forgot the wristbands, you know, like have a nightmare. I mean, can you imagine? And like when we were like 2006 or 2005-ish, we had kind of gotten some NASCAR one-word calls a little bit, but I mean, you go back then, if we didn't have the wristband of the game, we literally could not run an offense. It would have been, we couldn't have played. We'd have just been like, well, or whatever.
That's why Tony Franklin made that wristband. It's like, I got you.
Yeah.
You've got to stay with me now because you can't call it anything else because the kids just get used to it. I was thinking about going wristbands, honestly, just because I'm installing a brand new offense at a school, and we just started practicing like with the kids. The first time was this Monday when I had like everybody. So I'm like, okay, let's go wristbands and everything like that. But then I was thinking, okay, COVID, I don't feel like washing those wristbands every single day. You know, when we used to do it, it's like they smell okay. Well, we'll wash them again later. But now it's like, no, you've got to wash them every single day, and you can't switch out because of cross contamination now. So it's like, no, y'all just have to learn it. Get a pen and paper and write it down and everything like that. And bringing on to COVID, what have you learned? Has your coaching or teaching changed a little bit? I'm sure it has this year. And what has changed? What have you done now that you haven't done previously because of the pandemic?
Well, I mean, this has been the hardest coaching season of my career. This has been, it's unprecedented. So we'd have to talk to coaches from like 1919 to be able to figure out, hey, what was going on with the Spanish influenza or whatever. This hasn't happened. So we're all just kind of trying to figure things out. We had to have multiple practices. We had to break things up in a way they've never been broken up. We felt like we had a pretty good system for install and teaching, and that all kind of got thrown out the window.
Shit the bed.
Using technology just became you had to. And we had Zooms to the point where us and the kids, we were all just like, Zoom is a cuss word. Like nobody wants to Zoom anymore. The kids are like, please God, don't send me another, message for a Zoom. But we used tutorials. And I've done that, but we literally made sure, all right, every single thing in our system, there's a video tutorial for the kids to watch, and we quizzed them. And, just trying to, it was the scary thing because none of us had ever been away from our kids that long. We're all just sitting there. And so having some contact with them, and we have kids from some difficult situations. So being able, they need us to be checking on them and keeping tabs on them, and especially academically. We had as coaches to do a whole lot of checking on kids and making sure they were doing their virtual work. But I think the biggest thing for me is just understanding, you have time to reflect and go, why do I care so much, about this game? It's taken away. Why is it bothering me so much, the idea that we wouldn't play? And I think that was a good thing to reflect on that and think about all the things football gives us and how it helps these kids. I wish I had this magical thing of this is what we did to beat COVID. But we did a lot of online learning, and we tried to be like example. All right, we have in our meeting rooms. We bring all the kids in and we install a concept on the board and show them film, and you go out and you walk through. Same thing everybody does. Well, we couldn't. We could only have a few kids in the meeting room because of social distancing. So now we had to cut our meeting time in half because we had to split it and have different groups. So we have a young group come in, an older group come in, and but I think that because of doing that, it was exhausting. But I think we did a better job with our young kids just because they were separate and we really focused on them. Because we've always brought in, we're different. Like we don't have a ninth grade staff. Our ninth graders we have about 150 or so kids in the program. And our ninth graders practice with the varsity and they're with us. And so like during the summer, the ninth grade will be out there. So like me and our varsity defense coordinator call plays for the freshman team, which is a pretty cool deal. But they still get shortchanged sometimes because, obviously we're worried about the varsity stuff. So now we got to spend more time with them. I think that was a benefit. They got a lot more reps because they had a separate practice. And it sucked. As coaches, we were up there a long time because we had to have multiple practices to deal with all the social distancing and everything else. But it worked out, I guess, in the end. Hopefully it never, ever happens again.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
All right, we have a couple of questions. One, do you have an example or a diagram of sloppy that you can throw up on the screen?
Yes. All right. Let me try this. I'm gonna.
Okay. And while he's getting that, so there you go, Johnny. Philip and Coach Wheeler. Philip is literally making wristbands as we speak. First game this Saturday, #middle school. Good luck, Coach. And I like wristbands. I really do. It's just, to me right now, it is I don't feel like watching them all the time. Ian, I am at a small school in Columbia, South Carolina. That is where I went to. Tony Franklin bands are really smart in theory, but seem like a nightmare to maintain. They kind of are. Like, if you get it right the first time, it auto-populates, but boy, you better not make a mistake. And then if you really think that wristbands will take you 20 minutes to figure out, it doesn't, because they're very tedious. So do you have it? You just
can I you can show my screen with a PowerPoint too, right?
Yes, all you got to do is hit share screen, and then it pops up on my end, and then I just share it.
All right.
Josh is the man. Get him to talk QB cards for those who don't know about it. Coach Banks.
Get him to talk. Coach Banks, my guy.
Coach Banks is a man.
He is. What did he ask? I'm troubleshooting.
Sloppy. Here. Wanted to see a diagram of sloppy.
All right, I've got one pulled up on my computer. Hopefully.
Okay, so if you go back to the StreamYard app at the bottom where it says like mute, stop camera, it'll have something that says share screen.
Okay.
So you click that and something will pop up and you tell it which screen you want to share.
Gotcha.
There it is. And yep, boom. There you go.
Awesome. Okay. So like really quickly, I had to take my signal off here.
I totally understand. I understand, man. I understand.
So like this is an old concept. This would be ace, sloppy left, bag right. All right. Now we've messed around with some different stuff. All right. Right now we're basically running. We throw a ton of back shoulders. The outside guys it's a back shoulder throw. This is something we got from Andrew Coverdale that we were trying. It just didn't work for us. But the idea was you fake a fast screen And that gets, and then when you go, it looks like you're, it's a pump and go. And so the corner is going to turn and run with him. But let's just focus in on, let me see if I can get a pen right here. Focus in on this. This is the sloppy route, like right here. Can you see me drawing?
Yes, sir.
All right. So you can do this out of 2x2, 3x1. This would be the sloppy. So he would be reading the first defender head up to inside. Okay. And let me just go. Actually, I've got a teaching thing on here. All right, here we go. So first guy head up to inside. If he's head up or you can stem him to a head up alignment, okay, then you're going to slam. Now, we picked this up from LSU. This is different than what we used to do. What we used to do is we threw the out a whole lot, and we were trying to force the slant to get more big plays. So this is kind of an LSU thing for you guys. So there's a little bit of a slight stem, and so you're forcing this guy to declare. And another coaching point that changed for us over the years is kind of pausing right here at the top of the route. Okay, so if I can stem him to a head-up alignment, then I'm going to cross his face. Different guys teach different ways about the break and how fat it should be. We've always been kind of a skinny break because we worry about the mic redirecting back and making a play on it. But a lot of guys, like if you watch, the Patriots, that guy's pretty flat coming out of the break. But if I can get head up, then I'm going to slant and cross his face. A lot of people say slant till you can't. We just got away from saying that. We just felt like it forced them into the slant sometimes when we didn't want it. Just if I can get head up on the guy, I ought to be a good enough player to cross his face. Okay. If he will not let me get head up on him, so he just maintains inside leverage because I'm never going to stem inside for more than really 2 steps. If he will not, then I get up outside and I kind of pause just very slightly. It's very quick. It's basically like just firing my feet. Then I'm going to break out. That pause is a big change we made in not fooling the quarterback that we think helped a lot. It allowed – people don't realize the hard part about option routes, it's easy for the receivers. It's the quarterback because he not only has to process the coverage, he's got to know what his guys are going to do. And a lot of that is reps. But just that little pause at the top, and if you watch NFL guys, they're always doing that sort of thing. You'll see them kind of hezzy release. Yeah. And so it lets you kind of feel, okay, where are these guys at? What's he going to do? And then you have to have stuff built in where if he fools you, something's really easy and available. Something that we do that I think some people don't, I think can make this thing go. If you're seeing like a lot of 3-3 stack or a lot of like rip Liz match, save and cover 3 where you're getting outside leverage guys on your number 2 receiver, we immediately take away the option route. I mean, the outside break. So now we're just reading still the first guy head up to inside right here. So like if that guy blitzed, we're going to get a big play on the slant. If he drops back and they bracket, then you just throw a 5-yard hitch and then he, gets upfield and you move the sticks. I mean, and if it gets ugly at all, so like if he gets, let's say we go to slant break and the mic gets back away, then have something built in right in front of the quarterback that can make him right. So like this is one of our standard things we like to run with it. It's a snag dig concept. We call it bag. It's a backside snag. So his eyes are working back to this. If any inside backer took it away, then I should have something right in front of me and create at least a 3-on-2 back there. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. All right. So Tim has a question. If the receiver breaks out, does he show his numbers to the quarterback and pivot?
We used to do that. Now we're working a straight break. I don't think it matters that much. Here's kind of why we changed, and you can kind of decide, for yourself what you think works best for your program. We used to pivot back out. We felt like just even turning his head inside sometimes gave the quarterback a false key. So what we did is it's the same rule as Goofy. So on Goofy, if you were going to hitch inside, you turned inside. You can never turn outside and stop because that fools the quarterback and he airmails it to the cloud corner sitting out there. So the rule's the same for both. If I'm going to break out, then I'm going to turn out. If I'm going to break in, then I'm going to turn in. We didn't want any confusion. And that's why we changed it. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but our quarterbacks like that better.
Okay. There you go, Tim. Screens. You have the shallow screen. What is that, and why should I run it this year?
All right. It is an amazing way to get the ball on a screen with no D-line retrace. if you remember, I said earlier that it used to be like witchcraft when you called a jailbreak. You can't. We just about can't call jailbreaks against our defense at all. Most teams we play, D linemen retrace now. They're just so much better coached, and you've got to call screens at exactly the right time. The shallow screen doesn't give any screen key to the defense. You get most of the time, if you do it right, you can get just about everybody blocked, and you're getting the ball to one of your best players in space. It is awesome.
Okay, hold on. Draw it up, man. Draw it up.
Here we go.
You can, if you don't want to, you can go to God, what is it? AWW whiteboard or whatever. AWWAPP.com.
Okay.
It's an online whiteboard, and just share your screen, because I have been thinking about screens. Like right now, the quick screen's going in, but I don't know what that second screen is going in, because like you said, I don't like the retrace. That always gets me.
Okay.
If you have something though that is even better, man, I am down.
All right, I got you. Here, let me get back to this thing.
And Anthony, how you doing, sir? He says hello. Coach McKie and Josh. Come on, Anthony, man. My name's up on the board. It's right here, McKie. And you spelled it wrong. Hurts my feelings, man.
All right, I'm learning how to do this a little bit.
That's fine, man.
Here we go. Almost going to share. Boom.
All right, here we go.
Yep. All right. So let me give you a quick little, like 30-second history lesson. This is the way we tried to run it for years. All right. This is kind of Oklahoma way. It did not work for us. It works for Oklahoma. Maybe because some of the guys they have. But trying to run it this way, you're always outnumbered. I don't want to go into the whole reasons why, but the defense has got 11 guys. Your quarterback has to throw. They can outnumber you. Hopefully we're all good there. And so you have to read a guy, maybe run a draw. That's cool. Here's the way we do it. Okay. So really just quick coaching points. The guy running the shallow screen has got to be feet of the D line and screaming across. When he gets to the center-ish, we tell him to flush the route, which all that means is kind of take a couple steps back towards the line of scrimmage to really show the referee, I'm behind the line, this is not illegal. And he will not stop. He never he's just screaming across there, which for us is a shallow. Okay. We differentiate crossing routes. So like a shallow, you're just running. A drag, you can settle. A gag is kind of a different type deal. But it's drag rules you can settle. So he's going across and he's not stopping. Quarterback's taking a quick 5. All right, here are the rules. Number 3 has chaser to the number 4 defender from the sideline. So we count the corner as 1. We don't count any safety that's over 8 yards. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, the reason why we count 4 is, and not just say backside linebacker, because it's the backside linebacker 9 times out of 10, is because of how much odd we see and how much weird stuff. We've seen drop 9 before. We see all kinds of things. So it's chaser to number 4. If it's man, then it's going to become like a mesh play with a block. So he's always going to override number 4 if anybody's getting chased. So like that corner could be chasing, the weak overhang could be chasing. He's going to blow up the chaser. Number 2 has number 3, which is usually the play side inside backer. Now, he would also override for a chaser, like if the Y right here missed the chaser or whatever. Okay, so but we've got to get those inside backers blocked because that's usually who makes the play. The running back is going to be a 4-strong concept. The running back is going to block number 2. And usually what ends up happening, that's the overhang most of the time. He also sometimes just has to sort things out. But him pressing vertical, because we run so many things free releasing with a back and we get him up the seam some too, that usually freezes this guy. And so he gets him blocked. We want to take 2 with number 1 if we can, but we always are going to override the safety and block the corner if we feel like the corner is not going to run with us. So his rule is I've got corner no matter what, but if I think I can take 2, or by game plan, if we know if I release to the safety, they're both going to chase, then that's what we're going to do. Quarterback takes a quick 5, throw it outside the tackle. It's an awesome play. Awesome play.
All right. I'm going to steal this.
Okay.
My one question is I'm going to take it too. I'm going to make this is the second play that you've come up with, like Sloppy's number 1. This is number 2 that everyone's going to steal and then call it their own. I love this play. Have you ever thought about empty and then doing that?
We have
How's that worked out for you?
The trouble with it is that we felt like we want to run it this way, and we'd have to go quads really to get it. We did mess around with it in empty, but what would end up happening sometimes is we would just be short to the 3-man side. We didn't have that extra back to kind of sort it out and fix it.
And get number 2.
Right. For us, and it looks a lot like the kind of mesh that we run, which kind of protects it a little bit, which is more of like a Chip Kelly type of deal. The mesh where you have the guy over the ball at 8 to 10 yards, rather than like traditional old school mesh. But so it looks kind of like that, and that protects it a little bit. But empty wise, well, we still run jail out of empty. It just never worked for us. I'm not saying it can't, but we like doing it this way just to be sure that we can try and get everybody blocked by having the 4 strong. We think that's the best way to be sure to get everybody blocked.
I get it. I was just wondering because I do like that. I didn't know if you've done this. I didn't know if you put a guy, running to the 3 and we're able to do that.
I think if you're not going to do the 4 strong, all right, you've got to have the quarterback read one of the inside backers for the possibility of a draw. Okay. That's the key, and that's what Oklahoma does and is so good at. But they have Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts running the draw. We have not had that. So we're trying to throw it.
I understand. Question from Dylan Lineman. Are they just straight up pass pro, or are they releasing? Are they doing something different? What are they doing?
That's the best thing about the play. They do not release at all. Basically, we're telling them to deep vertical set and invite pass rush. And so what it does is to the D linemen that are so coached up about, okay, a guy released or he threw me, and so I've got to retrace for the screen and be the rat. They never get that read. To them, they don't know it's a screen. Okay? It's great because defensive coaches will yell screen. You can hear them. They're yelling screen, but it's not a screen to them because they're like, wait a minute, this guy's blocking me, coach. It's not a screen. So, and we've tried to do the same thing. Here's another little, depending on who you're trying to get the ball, you can't get the 4 guys to block, but throw this to the running back too. We've done that too, especially against a man team. Put the running back away from trips and kind of drag him across behind the line. And if you're getting man, that backside backer, the inside backer that's going to have him man is now going to have to run through all that trash, and now you're throwing it to the back. So you can't do it against every look and every front we feel like you can with the trips version of it, but it's still good if you're trying to get the ball to your back. And again, it's a back screen where you're not releasing any linemen. And I think it helps today because people are so good at playing screens.
Do you have an adjustment off of that, like a lock or something like, a lot of coaches, they throw the quick screens, and then if the defense is screaming, they'll pump fake the quick screen and go deep. Do you have anything off of that?
We do, like Fox is our fake screens. So we have a Fox off of it. It's never hit before. It just hasn't. Where the big thing, like we run so much verticals that we drag number 1 away from trips a lot on our vert stuff. So it's really 3 verts. So when Y is running like that over or climb or cross route, number 3, it looks just like that when he starts on police. And I think that protects people some too, because they're trying to reroute him. So just by throwing verticals, it also protects it. Just having stuff that, constraint plays, which, Smart Football talked about, and I don't know how long ago, and everybody uses that too. I guess stole from him. That's what it is. Just have some constraints for it and you're good.
Okay. Anthony, I don't know about that we're just 2 high school coaches talking offense, not why college quarterbacks can't make it to the NFL and stuff like that. It's way past our pay grade.
Yeah,
say what?
I said, we're just high school ball coaches.
Yeah, that's it. You're barking up the wrong tree right there. A couple of coaches since Coach Banks dropped that in there. Quarterback cards. What are those?
That's bad of me, because we were talking about building relationships with players. One of my favorite things that we do, that I've done for years and years, is before every game, it's kind of almost the ceremony now. I give the kids these little pocket laminated cards. I've heard other guys do this. This is not like this new thing I came up with. I just thought it was cool and did it. And now I think I know a lot of people that do it. But basically, it's going to have at least 10 things, and that may be about the game. It may be about the situation that we're going on. It may have nothing to do with football, but it's just 10 things I want them to know. So like last night, I gave them one. We have our pregame quarterback meeting, right before we go get dressed. And so I'll give them the cards and kind of talk to them about what it says. So it's going to have things like, never try and throw a corner out over a sinking corner or something, like some basic football stuff. But then it's going to have life stuff or relationship stuff and motivational stuff. And I think some of the kids, I found them lying in their locker, right? But other kids I've had come back to me years later and be like, I still have every one of those cards. And that's pretty special. So it's stuff that they remember and it sticks with them. And so I think that's a great thing, relationship building wise. And we're guys, it's hard sometimes to, just talk about
and open up. Yeah.
Open up. So I can type it. I can do that and say it. And then we don't have to look at each other in the eye when,
you just hand it to them looking at the ground and
right,
whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. You tell your players you love them. Guys struggle with that. You do, but that matters to them when they say it. And you can see sometimes the first time you tell a kid, you're like, I love you, man. You're important to me. They're like, but a lot of them have never had a male figure in their life ever tell them that. They literally have not. That's an important thing for them to know somebody cares about them unconditionally and not just if they're a good player.
I agree. And before COVID, I found that a lot of them have never gotten a hug from another guy.
Right. Yeah.
And that's something I've been like, come here, buddy, give it here. I love you. Like you say it, and then just hug them. And then, they're at first they're resistant, and then they're like, wow, this is human contact when someone actually cares about me, not what I can give them, but just actually likes me.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay. So the cards, is it something like a note card like this that you type up, or is it just, you just type it up on a paper and print it out?
Well, if I'm being honest with you, I type it and I send it to one of our assistants, and he laminates it for me and prints it out on color.
One of the 42 other coaches you have on staff?
I think we have 17. But it's small enough to fit in a pocket. It's a little bit smaller than an index card. Okay. We messed around with it over the years. When I first started doing it, it was an index card, but now we're more fancy. We put graphics and stuff on there and color print. But I want it to look nice and be something you can keep, and not be trashy, so that if they keep it or whatever, then it's a big deal. And I go back, and I hope none of them, I know none of my quarterbacks will watch this. So, but I cheat, I'll steal stuff from years before when they weren't playing. I'm like, I can go back to 2012 and get some of those, because it takes time, so sometimes you have to steal some. You can't all be original. So a lot of my quotes are recycled, but
nothing wrong with that. Do you number them game one or quarterback card one and then the date? Because again, dude, I am stealing a shit ton of stuff from you from this interview. I'm just letting you know that. And that's one of them. I really like that, because I need help building that connection, because I haven't seen them. I think I only had 4 times during the summer to see him before we got shut down and then come back and everything like that. So the QB cards, that's a brilliant way of building that connection. And it's something, honestly, this is the first time I've ever heard anybody ever talking about that. You say a lot of other coaches do it, but we put the team that week so they can keep them, they know exactly what game it's from, and they can kind of remember, okay, this is what we were talking about. And so it can, I remember, there'll be one, I've got a couple quotes about bad weather games, and I can go back and look, okay, this is bad weather game. And they can remember, okay, that was the game where it was, horrible. We played in a torrential downpour or whatever. And we start out too. I give them just pocket cards. Those are relationship building and motivational. But when we start quarterback school, we have rules. Nevers. We talk a lot about nevers. Never, ever do certain things. I think if you say never do this, rather than kind of saying, hey, it'd be good if you did. If you say never, you're setting a baseline of you don't cross this line. And so we give them our 10 or 12 nevers. We give them a card at the beginning of the quarterback school, and they have that. And so we put them on the board all the time. I just feel like that's important. They have to take ownership in the offense. Let them install. I've let quarterbacks install a play with the receivers or whatever, and lets them know, okay, this dude, he knows he's running the show. And so you make them get on the board. But also, one of the things we do is just quiz them on, all right, name me 3 nevers, and make the kids do that. And so they're constantly, they need to know that you love them, but they also need constant stress, because it is stressful to be a quarterback, and they're dealing with stuff that nobody else is on the team and that nobody else understands. So if you put them in tough situations in the meeting room, then that's just going to help them deal with all kinds of stuff.
I mean, one of the things they hate, but I interview them, and say like, all right, how do you talk to the media? Because football, again, in Georgia is a big deal, and they're going to get asked questions. Don't say stupid stuff that's going to hurt the team when they ask you something after the game. I mean, so it's simple stuff like that. You got to learn to speak quarterback cliche, right? I mean, that's part of the deal.
Or teach them how to speak the Belichick.
Right.
That's Give me your top 3 nevers. You say you got 10 of them. What are your 3 top ones?
Never take a sack in 2 minutes is one I talk about a lot. Sacks to us we always blame the quarterback for a sack. Typically, like, you cannot take sacks. We all know it's not his fault sometimes, but never take a sack in 2 minutes. This is a little bit different for us. All right. It may not apply to everybody in how you coach it. We talk about never underthrow a post route. All right. Because in our offense, we're weird, but like a go route. All right. We define the different things. A go for us, we never, ever overthrow a go unless you want to get ripped. Like, give the guy a chance to catch the ball. And we throw back shoulders. I mean, like, that's just a core thing we do, is throw back shoulder balls. So we're trying to give the guy a chance. But a post for us is literally, we have different words for maybe the different types of posts that people run. But like, a post for us is a bomb. Like, we are taking the top off, and we don't want to underthrow that. I mean, you can overthrow it. Let the thing rip. So that's an unusual one. That's why that just kind of came to mind. What would be the third one that I would want to share? Well, I already said never throw over a sinking corner. Like, because we run so much smash, that's so huge. And kids do that all the time and think, I can beat him. I can beat him with the throw. Well, it's geometry, man. I mean, no, you can't. Pythagorean theorem, right? So he's got a straight line. He's going to make a play on the corner. So we talk about that one a lot too. But I think whatever, you can do it a million ways in your offense, come up with what works for you. But I think that stuff's important. Give them some non-negotiables, and that helps kids.
It does. And Coach, I've been talking to you for over an hour. Coaches, if you want to get in touch with him, here is his Twitter account. Boom. Here is his website. Boom. And then here his course on Coachtube. And I just looked. Dude, you gave away Trips Right X Police for free?
Probably not very smart.
You should have kept that, man.
That's what we did.
And off air, I want to know what your goofy signal is, because I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, and all we watch is freaking Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, and I see Goofy all the time. So I'm just curious, like, what is your signal for that? Is there anything you want to say before we go?
No, just thank you for everything you're doing for the coaching profession. I mean, the great thing about coaches is that, unlike any other profession, we come up with a good idea that, or think we do, that beats somebody, and then we tell them what we did. And that's what makes it special. And I think sometimes, there's Twitter battles and all these things that go on, but we're kind of all in this together. This is, as coaches, we're changing kids' lives, and all that other stuff that we say it's cliche, but it's really true. So let's not be Twitter trolls, guys.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I tell you what, speaking of social media, since this Corona-cation, 2 things. One, I've never blocked and muted so many coaches before in my life. And 2, I've never realized how many coaches were virus specialists and that know everything. Yes, it's like, oh my goodness, we complain about parents in the stands ripping us and telling us what to do. Yet we're telling the people that are 3 times as much school debt than we are, and dedicated their life what to do. I'm like, I'm dumb. I know football. If you ask me any other question, I have no flipping idea. So I'm just going to sit here and, like you said, steal sloppy from brilliant men like you, and then try to pass it on as myself. So, yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about that, Johnny. I appreciate you coming on, man. I would love to have you come back on and talk some more stuff, because, like I said, I've been a huge fan. I have all 3 of your books on my old iPad. And we do need more courses from you on Coachtube, because you're a brilliant man.
Hopefully we'll see this off season. There's plans in the works.
Awesome. Well, Coach, thank you for coming. Other coaches, thank y'all so much for being here. Stay safe. Let's watch some ball, man. We've got 6 games on. Actually, We got 3 more games today. I don't know about you, but I'm recording every single game because I don't know when they'll stop. I'm excited. And until next time, let's continue to mash the spread, score points, and have fun. I will see y'all later.